We are sitting down with Dr. Ryan Perkins at the beautiful Green Library at Stanford University. Dr. Perkins is the curator for South Asian studies at Stanford. He's an expert on South Asian history, literature, and culture. With a PhD from the University of Pennsylvania, he has taught at the University of Chicago and at Oxford University in the UK. He has published extensively on the history of late colonial India, including Lucknow culture, and he's proficient in 7 languages other than his native English. Now, we met first at a Stanford faculty member's house, and you blew my mind when I heard you speak fluent Urdu, then learned that you had lived in Lucknow and even knew my father's work. So let's start with, how did you end up in this line of work?
Thank you, Waqad. So I always had an interest in languages. So when I was in high school, I studied Japanese and Spanish. And then when I was in college in Chicago, a friend of mine who is from the UK, he had spent about 4 or 5 years on a ship going around the world. He put a big map of India on my wall and started telling me stories and encouraged me that I needed to go experience other parts of the world. And so I ended up then taking about a year and a half out of college and spent that time in South Asia. And I really fell in love with the languages, cultures, the food, and the people. And after that, I decided I wanted to pursue further studies and went to do a PhD. And then Stanford, after having had positions at Oxford and Chicago, Stanford had created this position that they'd never had before, covering South Asia in the library. And so it was a great opportunity to build something that had not existed before. And so I've been here now for about 8.5 years.
Fascinating. And what's the story behind you encountering my father's works?
So when I was in graduate school, I was starting to focus on the works of Abdul Halim Sharad, who was the first writer of historical novels in Urdu and was from Lucknow. And I was looking at his works, and there were not many other English language materials really detailing the cultural world of Lucknow. And so when I found your father's works, I was very excited, enthusiastic, and yeah. So when you had told me that who your father was and his works, I was very excited to hear that you're going to be republishing his works. So they had a really important role in my kind of early education, especially concerning Lucknow.
And tell me about your experience in Lucknow. I understand you spent some time there.
Yeah, so I spent quite a bit of time in Lucknow, learning language and then doing research. So one of the stories that I like to tell is, so there's this like old Lucknow, and Lucknow is famous for its culture, and especially the Nawabi culture. And it was said in some of these older sources that even the rickshaw-walas would be able to recite poetry. And so one day I was taking a bicycle rickshaw to Hazratganj and was about to get off, and we had been talking in Hindi and Urdu I was talking with the rickshaw driver. And he then starts reciting this beautiful Urdu in this poetic voice, some couplets in Urdu. And right as he starts doing that, this police wala with his danda starts coming over and saying, trying to get him to leave. And so it was like this old Lucknow and this new Lucknow coming together in this way. But it was a beautiful time that I spent there, and I look forward to going back again.
How long were you there?
Let's see, I probably spent about 2.5 years in Lucknow total.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, Lucknow is known for its cuisine, its foods. What were your favorites?
तो लखनऊ का खाना बहुत मशहूर है, तो मैं एक तो खाना कैसे फैसला करूं, लेकिन ये तो बास्केट चाट, जैसा आप तो जानते होंगे कि रॉयल चाट हाउस वो हजरतगंज बिल्कुल मरकज़, तो उनके पास वो बास्केट वाला चाट है, तो बहुत लजीज है. और उसके अलावा जैसे ओल्ड सिटी में गुलशन नहारी, उनका खाना बहुत लजीज है, तो मुझे बहुत अच्छी याद आती है.
So both the modern as well as the traditional, you covered them both. That's awesome. So on the occasion of the republication of my father's books, what are the thoughts that you have on their importance?
Yeah. Well, I think especially today, your father's works are really important. As a historian, I like to look at moments in the past that presented different possibilities, maybe roads that weren't quite taken. And I think with your father's work, it opens up this world of this past Lucknow, of this Ganga Jamuni cultural world that Hindus and Muslims had created together. And I think particularly today, when I see through social media and whatever other avenues, a lot of division coming up, whether it's in America, wherever it is in the globe. And I think this work kind of reminds us of the possibilities that we have to create a different type of present, a different type of future through really working together and kind of the heights of that. I think, I remember when I was studying Urdu in Lucknow and I was by the Gumti River and there was a policeman who started talking to and his friend was with him and he asked me, "Aap yahan kyun aaye?" और मैंने जवाब दिया कि उर्दू सीखने के लिए मैं यहाँ आया हूँ। और फिर उन्हें जवाब दिया कि लेकिन उर्दू पाकिस्तान के लिए, हिंदुस्तान में सिर्फ संस्कृत हिंदी। और फिर मैंने जवाब दिया कि लेकिन आप उर्दू अल्फाज इस्तेमाल करते हैं जब आप मुझसे बात करते हैं। तो फिर उनका दोस्त हंसने लगा क्योंकि ये तो सच है कि हम जैसे हिंदुस्तानी हिंदी में बात नहीं कर सकते अगर हम उर्दू अल्फाज इस्तेमाल ना करें। तो जैसा अगर मैं किसी हिंदू से बात करूं तो वो कहते कि अच्छा आपको हिंदी आती है, अगर मैं किसी मुसलमान से बात करूं तो वो कहते कि अच्छा आपको उर्दू आती है। तो जैसा आप कहना चाहिए लेकिन क्या खूबसूरत ज़बान है। तो ये तो जैसे दिल में ये है कि लखनऊ की तहज़ीब बहुत खूबसूरत थी, फिर भी आजकल तो वो निशान बाकी तो है। और ये ज़बान जो है उर्दू ज़बान तो क्या खूबसूरत ज़बान है। अगर आप हिंदी कहना चाहें, अगर आप उर्दू कहना चाहें तो कोई बात नहीं।
चलिए उसको हिंदुस्तानी कहते हैं।
हिंदुस्तानी हम भी कह सकते हैं। So, but thank you. I'm very excited for your father's work to be republished, and especially for this younger generation, for them to kind of remind themselves of who are we. We can lose sight of who we are when we lose connection with our past and with these histories. And so I think that your father's work can play a really important role continuing on in the future and really highlighting this beautiful shared cultural world.
Well, thank you, Dr. Perkins. It has been a pleasure to discuss my father's work with you, as well as understand, the Ganga Janmi Tehzeeb that you highlighted, as to how it brought together, different kinds of people, different kinds of religions in one place. And it was certainly a unique experience that, I went through looking up to my father.
Yeah.
And thank you for highlighting everything.
Yeah. Well, thank you.